Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another episode of the Working in Hockey podcast. I'm your host, Nick Bowins, joined by Lukas, Georgas, as always. And today, super excited to have an old pal, Hannah Beckman, on the show here. Hannah, somehow you were the first PWHL guest that we have had. So super excited to dive into a conversation with you here. How's the summer been today?
Well, thank you for having me. I'm really honored to be the first PW guest. That's really awesome. But summer's going great. Yeah, just gearing up for season three and also enjoying a little bit of the downtime us business have. But it's been great, and yeah, just enjoying the weather. Not too hot, so loving every second of it.
Absolutely. Well, I think we should dive right into it here. Like I say, first conversation somehow, some way. So, want to dive right into your role here. Hannah's the media and community relations coordinator for the New York Sirens, as you can see on the shirt there. Hannah, what does that mean? What is your role day to day? What's day in the life look like for you?
Yeah, absolutely. I think like the day in the life, I think a lot of people ask me what my day to day looks like, and it very differentiates. Like every day is different, whether it's during the off season, in the middle of the season, or right now during our off season, which is a little bit more quiet. But yeah, I mean, like Nick said, like I'm the media and relations, community relations coordinator for the Sirens, and essentially what that to me, in my opinion, is relationship building and brand awareness, and growing our brand of who the New York Sirens are, and also growing who our players are. So a lot of it is, mainly public relations is essentially the short term of it. We work a lot within the PR side of things. So pitching stories, talking to reporters, fulfilling media requests, whether it be, the hockey news requesting an interview for one of our players, or TSN or CBS, New York Daily, so forth. And New York Post, especially too. But yeah, so a lot of pitching stories, talking, relationship building, everything like that. And then obviously with the community aspect. So working with youth organizations throughout New York, New Jersey area, working with the grassroots side of it, hosting clinics, and exactly like we're doing this week, having our first ever Siren Summer Camp. So a lot of that, getting youth players, maybe future Sirens players out, getting the ability to be coached straight up from Sirens players, and also almost like live life as a Sirens player for a week. So a lot of being on the back end of that planning, the coordinating, working with organizations, working with whether it's RWJ Barnabas from a medical side, or visiting hospitals, school visits, everything like that. That's kind of what I do on the back end, planning that. And then, of course, going to our players and working with them and being like, hey, what do you want to do? What are your interests within community? And, getting them out there and in front of people. So that's essentially the long answer of what I do.
No, that's perfect. And you touched on it a bit there, but with the PWHL being so new, I imagine you do wear a lot of different hats and juggle a lot of different things throughout the course of the day, let alone the course of a season, obviously. So what are some of the interesting things you've been able to do that maybe don't fit the exact job description that you have, but have been great opportunities for you to learn and maybe even pick up new skills?
Yeah, that's such a good question. I think like something that I definitely put the cliche saying of like wearing a lot of hats into fruition. It's so fun. I think something that I really love about my job is I get to work very closely with our players, especially from a figuring out their personalities. So like if player A doesn't really necessarily fit within the fashion realm, maybe I'll go to person or player B to, because I know that she loves fashion. So I'll get her to, an event that really is all about showcasing your style and everything like that. So something that has made me really dive deep into is working with a lot of different brands. And especially too, I think being a public relations person in the public relations field, you kind of wear a lot of hats within like you're doing social media. Like there's a lot of times where I have to pull my social media manager and be like, hey, flagging this for you because they want to do a certain post with our player. But we were talking about having them on a podcast originally. So working with a lot of different brands, like sometimes it's event planning too. Sometimes, again, like I touched on, working with community organizations, it's like, okay, now you have to plan an event. What is this going to look like for the player? What is this going to look like as the Sirens being a part of this event? So that's something that, as I was in college studying public relations, you kind of didn't think that you would do that. But something especially so cool with growing with us is that it's almost like sometimes there are no limitations. So you very much get to be very creative. So I definitely have felt that I've been able to do that.
Yeah, that's awesome. And real quick, again, you kind of touch on wearing so many different hats and people being involved with there. How many people roughly are kind of in the Sirens business organization there right now?
Yeah, absolutely. Our business staff is fantastic. So, we have our business director. So that's kind of the person that oversees all business operations of the New York Sirens and, how the front office works. So then you go down to our ticketing reps. So we have about 4 ticketing reps right now. They work day in and day out, calling people, generating sales, putting people in the seats, getting people to Prudential Center to watch the Sirens. And then you have me, media and community relations coordinator. You got grassroots person who him and I work very closely together because that's community. So working with youth organizations, we really work kind of hand in hand together on that. So it's, he'll reach out to the organization, work on what can we do, and then I jump in to bring our players involved, sort of thing. And then you got our social media manager, obviously the person behind what our brand is on social media platforms. Absolutely do an amazing job with that. We're so fortunate with the team that we have from a content perspective. And then you got our content director. So the person behind the camera making all the amazing visuals that make up the Sirens of storytelling from a digital aspect. So yeah, about my math isn't great, but we have about maybe 10 or so on the business staff alone. So we're small, but we're mighty. We work day in and day out, and also true to trickle in our game presentation, of course, during the season. So they work very very hard creating our game pres, making it very unique from all the other 7 markets. So but yeah, small, but we're very creative and we all love working together. That's something that is the beauty of a small team. You very much get to work together, be very hands on, and kind of, trickle into other people's areas too. And you just tag team on everything.
Definitely, yeah, very much like a sports team in that regard, right? Where you know who's in the lineup, you know what everybody's role is, and it's
Exactly.
coming together. You mentioned there, kind of studying PR in school. Part A, is this something you always wanted to do then? And part B, what sort of skills do you think are important for somebody looking to get into a role like this? Obviously, you're a people person. You've got the charm. I'm sure you need organization skills. And what else, kind of goes into being a PR community relations coordinator?
Yeah, thanks. Well, thanks, Nick. But yeah, I think, well, first of all, I went into school studying. Yeah, it's so funny. We actually just were at a career fair, so I was talking a bit about how I got to where I was or where I am today. And when I started school, I was originally a journalism major. So I thought, I was going to write stories because I love writing. Something about me, I love putting words together. I was always great at essays, and I terrible with numbers but good with words. So started with journalism, but then by the end of my first semester freshman year, I was like, yeah, no, I don't like this. I don't like AP format. This isn't my vibe. So then all of a sudden, one of my, looking at, I always knew comms and media was definitely going to be my forte.
Mhm.
But other than journalism, I was just kind of like, okay, like what else is there? Obviously, marketing, all the video production, everything like that. But then, Utica University had a great opportunity with public relations. Not many schools have that as an actual focus. So I was really fortunate, and not a lot of people know, like Utica University kind of used to, way back in the day, like work very hand in hand with Syracuse University. And Syracuse University has the Newhouse School, which is one of, if not the best communication schools in the country. And so we kind of had a lot of resources from them. So we had, the professors at Utica were absolutely tremendous. There were some who had background with ESPN, and we would work really closely with the Buffalo Sabres. Like we had opportunities there. So anyhow, I dialed in on public relations, and all of a sudden you're writing mock press releases, and you're, doing mock case management studies, and something about that just really, like, ticked in my brain. I was like, I really like this. It was very, very nitty gritty, and something that I loved about it was very business. Something about communications and media, which isn't a bad thing. It's very, obviously, people think it's very lax. It's not. It's not laxy daisy at all. It's a lot of hard work. But with public relations, you really went into the nitty gritty of the business. You do have to work very closely with, okay, what are the business optics? What are the strategies? What's, our KPIs, stuff like that. You have to know that in order to, generate awareness for a brand and grow a brand. And also, perform stories around it. So I liked that a little bit. I liked the storytelling aspect. That was just something that I was like, all right, I really like this. And then something that I kind of, obviously being a hockey player, I was like, well, I either want to play hockey after college or I want to work in hockey. So I had a very fortunate opportunity where at Utica, I was hockey ops towards the end of my career. So I became hockey ops. I worked with our coach. I worked with our men's team a little bit, especially for their social media. So as I was nearing graduation, in my brain, it was either two ways: PR, corporate world, or hockey ops. So all of a sudden you're exploring, you're going on LinkedIn, you're going on Indeed. All right, what is there? Whatever. And then all of a sudden I started realizing, wait, you can do public relations in hockey? Like, no way. Like, yes, they absolutely have that. And it's really funny. I'm a little bit of a Leafs fan. Not a little, I'm a lot of it. Nick knows. But something like that struck me, like I followed Leafs PR on Twitter, and like I noticed that they would, break their news a lot. Like that's how I learned my news. So then I started getting really, studying, okay, what is a PR in hockey? What does that entail? So kind of seeing, what the NHL was doing, and everything like that. And so then I was like, okay, this could be a possibility. Of okay, there's opportunities within PR, in sports, and everything like that. And then as I just learned and as I researched, it was like, oh, this is a very important job in sports. This is how people find out about big trades. This is how player stories become about. This is how people understand Austin Matthews' story growing up. Like it all intertwines. And then fairy tale happening, where I just saw that PR opening for the Sirens, because I was like, okay, knew the PWHL came about. I want to be a part of it in some shape, way, or form. And yeah, and then I beautifully obviously got it, and here I am. But yeah, that's kind of like the long of it of how I got, to what I love to do now.
Yeah, that's a great story, and I think it's a testament to, like, how what you initially think you might wanna be involved in is not always what you end up being involved in, and there's so many different possibilities
Mhm.
within even, like, sports in general, and
Yeah,
obviously hockey as well, and with the PWHL now, there's so many other jobs opening up,
right.
and there's gonna be more teams
Yeah.
expanding, so I think there's gonna be endless possibility there, but I'm always curious with different jobs, like, what is the travel like for you in this role? Are you going to every game? Are you at every practice, every event, that kinda
Yeah.
thing?
Absolutely. It's so funny. I was actually just talking to one of our new players about it, just because she's just like, she was with another team, and she was like, so where are you, like, during the day? Like, are you at home? Are you whatever? For me, so essentially for my position, and also our social media manager and our content person, we are the only three business staff that travel with the team on a regular basis. And that's, kind of what the league standard is for people in our position. So, obviously we really have to be hands on, because if I need to develop a story about players, I need to be around them. I need to know who they are. I need to know the dynamic of our team. I need to know the culture. I need to know kind of all the ins and outs of that, and everything. Um, I'm at every single game. There's not a game that I miss, and for me, I like to think, I'm a hard worker. It takes a lot for me to miss a game there. Even if I'm coughing up, yep, slap on a mask or something to make sure our players don't get sick. I'm there. Home or away, I'm there. For me personally, I'm at the rink every day. Obviously, as a hockey person, that's not different for me, so it's kind of easy. It was very easy for me to adapt to that. And also, I found that it was very easy because if I have a media request for a certain player, it's easier for me to turn around and go, "Hey, I have a media request for you. Are you available at this time?" Whatever, rather than going on my phone, texting, waiting for their response or something like that. It's easy. And again, knowing who our players are, being around them, like understanding them as people more than just as hockey players. So I like to be around the rink every day, and obviously it makes me, that's my home, right? Like I've been in the rink my whole entire life, so it's like I have to be at the rink. And same goes for our content people. Obviously, they got to shoot content. They got to make the post for Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok and everything like that. So they're at the rink and filming everything. And but yeah, I mean, road trips are the best part of it. We get to travel with the team. That's something that was such a selling point for me too with this job, is that like for me, nothing's changed. I've been on the road with the team all my life, and then with my profession, that never stopped. So I was like, I love that aspect. So you're you're in the meal rooms with the team, and you're around the locker room in the hockey space, and it's just like, again, you're right at home. So obviously every PR manager or every business person's different, but I'm very fortunate where I work with tremendous players and they're very open and honest with me. So um, having that line of communication, and also for me, it's important to just show that, hey, I'm accessible for you. Because if I'm accessible, then you're going to be accessible for me. So to be present and around is very important, and that they give the same to me if what I give to them. So uh, at the rink all the time, and wouldn't have it any other way.
That's super cool to hear, and I think, piggybacking off of it, like you said, there's just so much comes from the showing your commitment and relationship building by being there, right? A lot of things can be done online today. My job is mostly remote. We're doing this podcast fully remote, but there's something to be said about that in-person experience, especially in sports, right? You get to build that trust. It's, a new team, new players, you're a new face when you first come in. Building that trust is so much easier when you're there with them. You mentioned kind of growing up, being around the game, playing hockey all your life. We previously worked together with Triple D, which I seemingly left out of the intro, but we'll mention that. Shout out to JT Barnier
Absolutely.
for connecting us from 5 odd years ago. But think about that role with Triple D. You mentioned the role with Utica where you were doing hockey ops there. How important were those kind of part-time internships, smaller opportunities for you in landing a job like you have today? I think a lot of times the internships, the part-time, people scoff at, but for me, those are the stepping stones that get your foot into the door for a role like this, right?
110%. I literally couldn't agree with it more. I think, a lot of people say, and honestly, I thought too, like, oh, it's so hard to gain experience. Like, all these jobs post, and they're like, well, you need this X amount of experience. And yes, I will say it is difficult, but it's doable, right? Like, you know, for me, it's kind of, I wasn't even scouring for things. I kind of sound a little like, of course it happened, but it almost like opportunities just kind of came to me. And the reason why is because I I knew what I loved, and so therefore I followed what I loved. I was a hockey player, but ever since I was a kid, I was a hockey nerd. Like I loved the stories about how GMs were, you know, building the team that they built. I was always intrigued by that. And so the reason is because then it was like I was subconsciously searching for those opportunities without even like actually like, okay, Googling like opportunities in hockey. Like I didn't actually do too much of that. It was just because almost like my algorithm like blessed me with things. It was just like, here you go, like it's right in front of you. But yeah, it's more, it also is just talking to people and connecting with people is the biggest advice, honestly, that I give to anyone. Um, I mean, how Triple Deke happened was I was following Triple Deke. I liked Triple Deke as a person, as a consumer, exactly like you. I just knew of it, and then all of a sudden it posts like, we're looking for this. I'm like, oh heck yeah, like let me do this, let me work my communication skills, like let me do everything like that. And it was kind of right in the time where I was like deciding, oh, I want to study PR in school, so it was right at that moment. And so it was kind of the start of everything essentially. And then down the road, I finished up my career at Manhattanville, and obviously it didn't work out the way I expected to, but then it's like everything happened for a reason. And so like I said, I began at Utica, went to Manhattanville, finished my playing career. And then when I wanted to then go back to Utica just to finish up my education, I talked to my old head coach, and I was like, listen, like, is there an opportunity for me to work for the team? Like, I want to just figure out, media, like working hockey ops. Can I help you with that stuff, everything? And, I'm very blessed where he said, absolutely, definitely do it. Let's find something for you. And then all of a sudden it's just you're growing in experience without you even kind of like, oh wow, yeah, I'm learning how to make posts on Instagram, I'm doing community initiatives for the Utica women's hockey team without even realizing it. I'm building a social campaign for the school without even realizing it. And then where it kind of falls on my lap is all of a sudden the PWHL, the leading up to its inaugural season, the league decided to have their preseason camp on our home ice. So they rented out our home rink of Nexus Center, and us of our team, we were like, what the heck is going on? We can't practice here for a week. Are you kidding me? Like, what? But then I'm over in the corner being like, yeah, I'm like, let's go. So then, I talked to people, and I said, do they need help? Like, do they need assistance? Like, what can we do? And so then, they came to us, and they were like, yeah, we need help with statisticians. Like, this is our database. We use, whatever. And it's like, do our stats for us. And we were like, okay, you got it. It was like me and three of my teammates are up in our box, like doing the stats for their preseason games. And then you just meet people. I'm turning around and talking to someone, and little did I know, like a year later he's my colleague. Like, it's crazy how that works. And so all of a sudden it's like, okay, I'm resume building just from hopping on a bandwagon essentially. And then another opportunity showed up where the IHF Women's Worlds are in Utica, and I'm just like, like, what is going on? But then I said, okay, professor, it was, my professor, and he came to me. He said, hey, they need interns. They need interns for media. What you're going to do is you're going to help escort the players into media. And all of a sudden, I found myself escorting, the team's Swedish captain from the locker room to media. And all of a sudden, little did I know, a year later, I'm doing that as my profession. And it's just, all of a sudden it's like, wow, okay, I built all of this resume building without even kind of realizing. And of course, that's what definitely helped me, get to where I am, because I'm like, oh, I've done all this before. So that's extremely important. Obviously, you can't get to where you want to be without at least trying it in some capacity. So you got to get better. And, I still am learning and getting better to this day. And, even what I do now, it's everything's an experience. So it'll only lead me to wherever it may be down the road. But yeah.
So you talked about the director of women's hockey ops role while you were in school. Nick and I always say how crucial it is to make the most of your time, like essentially your free time in school. What were you able to take away from that role, but also time balancing and responsibility it gave you while like balancing schoolwork, obviously, in hockey and things like that?
100%. I mean, it was so crucial for me because I did not, even though I wasn't playing, I still wanted to be around the team. Like, that was something that was really important to me. And I was very open and honest with our head coach. And I was like, listen, like, I point where I don't want to play anymore, because I was at a point where I like didn't love the game as much as I used to as a player. I feel like all players go through that at some point in their career. Um, and I said, I was like, I just want to gain experience because I'm starting to look ahead. Like, I'm starting to look ahead in life. And he said, that's no problem. Like, be around the team. This is your family. Like, these were my teammates. They still are my teammates. So it was almost, for me, I just kind of still looked at it like I was still playing on the team and as a college hockey player. So even though I was doing something different rather than playing. So it's like on a game day, I did everything like I usually do, but rather than, gearing up and going for off ice warm ups and, then suiting up for the game, I put my work together. So I put my materials together. I'm like, okay, how am I going to record stats for the game today? How am I going to clip video for the coach? Like, how am I going to live tweet during the game? Because parents ate that up. So I was like, okay, like I know the NHL does it. So why don't I do it for our little D3 hockey team? So I did it, but it was a success. So I kind of just like went into it just like that with, hey, I'm still an athlete at heart. I mean, I still played for the Puerto Rico team at the same time. So I still was. So essentially I answer it like, you're an athlete, so you balance as a college athlete and you're balancing being a student at the same time. So it's, you go to practice at 7 a.m., you're on the ice from 7 to 8:30, and then 9:30 you have your first class. So it's like, okay, your brain is hockey for an hour and a half or 2 hours first thing in the morning, and then when you're done with that, you go to class. So now you have to dial in with class, and then you have lift at 5. So it's like, for me, I obviously didn't go to lift as with the team. I did it on my own time, but I still kind of did it along with the team on their schedule. So then, okay, then you pave out time. Like, what day of the week am I going to go to the library? What day of the week am I going to study for that exam? Or what day of the week am I going to, write that essay? It's just, I kind of formulated that same old, and time management is huge. And I think you never stop time management. Even right now, I'm time managing. For me personally, it's like, how do I time manage my personal life and how do I time manage my job? So you see what works, and you find the balance, but finding that balance is super important.
Yeah, no, I think that that's super important that you touch on there, and you learn it a lot through being an athlete. But like you said, everybody goes through that transition at some time, whether you're 2, 12, 22, 32, doesn't matter. We all
Absolutely.
kind of go through that, and it's the lessons you take out of it. I want to talk about women's hockey in general
Yeah.
for a second. Like I say, excited, glad, relieved that we finally have our first PWHL representative on the show here. Talk to me a little bit as somebody who's played the game, been around the game, now working for the highest tier women's league. What are some things that the women's game is doing really well today? And what are some things that, Lukas, myself, whoever else as general hockey fans can do to further support, further help grow the game of women's hockey?
Yeah. I mean, great question. There's so many ways I can answer that in so many good ways. I feel, you know, what's helping women's hockey get to where we are today is because the right people, and also just people in general, are putting their time and energy into it. I think, it's been a long time coming. Envious as heck for the 10-year-olds nowadays, like, looking up to this league and saying, I want to be a PWHL player one day. Like, I didn't have that. Even the players that are in our league right now, they didn't have that. Everything, they're putting that into women's hockey. And obviously it's different, right? You see Canada, and Canada hockey's Canada's sport, and people have been putting that time and effort into it. But obviously now, with the talent growing, the investment is growing, and with the energy that's growing, conversations are growing. So it's just a long time coming. And where the PWHL is, everyone kind of, the way I put it, in my opinion, because I'll never forget that when the league came into fruition, we all were like, well, finally, like, about time, right? But everyone was also kind of holding their breath because, like, as players, at the time I was still a player, knowing that the PHF happened and knowing that the CWHL happened, it's like, okay, like, let's see what happens, like, whatever, let's see how it goes. But then all of a sudden I'm at home putting on YouTube and I'm watching PWHL New York versus PWHL Ottawa, and I'm like, oh, like, I think they got it. I think this is it. I think it's time. And, all the thanks goes to the Walter Group and Billie Jean King and Jana Hefford. They really sat at the table and said, we got to do it and we got to do it now. And that's kind of why, January 2024, it was just like, a lot of people I talk to, it's not that the PWHL started and it's just like, oh, let's go. It's the PWHL started and went, it started and it's just, we've never stopped. And, that's why for me, when I was graduating, when the reality hit of, yeah, there's no shot I can play in that league, but it was, oh, I want to be a part of that league. I want to be a part of that growth. I want to be a part of that conversation. Because for me and, all my teammates and I would look at each other and we're like, I think it's finally happening. The investments there, the time into listening to the players and understanding that, hey, the female players should get what the men get, getting their travels expensed and, making sure that they have food to eat when they're on the road. Like, you had that quality. I mean, I know for me, like, it was just jaw dropping, the level of professionalism I saw these women get at Women's Worlds in Utica. I mean, I looked around and I was like, wow, like, they get treated exactly how they should get treated. And, seeing the amount of trainers that are coming out, seeing their equipment getting rolled in, like, seeing that players are getting 4 pairs of gloves for just a game. It's like small things like that seem small, but it's like at the end of the day, like 4 years ago, we didn't have that. These women didn't have that, right? And so it's okay, the time and energy is finally putting into place. And to answer your question on how can people help it, is just go to a game, buy the tickets and just go to the game. These players are so fun to watch. And I think people are very caught up with, comparing the NHL or comparing, versus the PWHL. It's like, PWHL is so special in my opinion because of its players. Like, these athletes are just so special. And, even our coaching staff will say it, like, working with these players are a level of professionalism that is just top tier. These players come to the rink ready to work. They are fueling their bodies properly. They are ready to win. They're fighting for a Walter Cup championship. They're so fun to watch. And I know, I'm up in the press box, writing my notes for stories and getting ready for media requests, and I'm jumping out of my seat. Like, it's just so exciting. And also something beautiful about our game, especially here in New York, is like, we're inclusive as heck. Like, you come to our games and it's fun. It's just a fun time. Like, you go to a Montreal Victoire game and the roof is popping off of that place. Like, it's a fun time, and it's very simple. All people have to do is just buy tickets and come to watch them play.
Well said.
Yeah, and I think it's super exciting to really look at the potential that it has, even like 10 years down the line, where it will be, right? Because the growth we've seen in this short period is so encouraging for the future.
Absolutely.
And just as a fan, it's like it's cool to watch, because right now is like the early stages of what it is, right? It's only going to go up from here. So
Yeah.
we always try to wrap up with some career advice, and I know you touched on some earlier, but for anyone looking to get involved in hockey, and maybe even specifically women's hockey, what's one piece of career advice you'd give to someone looking to start their career?
Oof. Good question. It's always a good question. I mean, looking to start to play, like, something for me, like, I started super late. I started playing hockey very late. Obviously, the classic age that people start playing is around, like, it ranges from like 3 to 5 years old. So the second you can walk, you get in skates in hockey. But for me, I started when I was like 10 or 11. first ice skating lessons. And then, and then by 12 years old, I finally was on my first team. And it's remarkable because you don't hear that often. And it's actually wild today. I even learned that Jinsey Rose didn't start until then. And she's an Ohio State grad and, year three getting on with the PWHL. It's remarkable. So, and I say that because the biggest thing to getting into hockey is that it's never too late. It's a very difficult sport because obviously it's not like soccer where you can just go buy some cleats, hop on a field, grab a ball and start kicking around. Like, with hockey, you got to learn how to ice skate. You got to then learn, put a stick in your hand. Now you got a stick handle and everything like that. And everything falls in suit. But, don't let that intimidate you. It's such a great sport. It's beginning to become more of an inclusive sport, especially in women's hockey, I think. If obviously, like, if you can play, you can play. And that's the biggest thing. And it's so fun. It's such a fun sport. You can go fast. I mean, that's what I wanted to play hockey because it was fast. And I teased my dad, he wanted me to continue playing softball. And I'm like, softball, you stand around a lot. Hockey, you're constantly going. Like you're going all the time. So it's just so fun. But yeah, the biggest thing is just, it's never too late. Just pick it up. Even if you're 25 years old and you want to go start playing pickup and in a rank, like go do it. Like it's very intimidating in the beginning, but just go and do it. And I think too, working in hockey, I think the biggest thing, and it's amazing to see selfishly and I love to see it. A lot of our players are very well spoken with it, is that you don't really have to necessarily play hockey to get to this level. It's great it's the opportunities that our league and the PWHL is presenting is that it's a huge opportunity for the next step of women's hockey, and that's the step of ultimately creating a professional league. But it's a beautiful opportunity for people working in sports and working in hockey. Like the NHL is great, and everyone wants to go there if you're a huge hockey fan. But also check out the PWHL. Like, why not be a part of history? I'll never forget it. One of my friends, texted me and said, "You're part of history," and I was just like, "Oh, okay, like that's pretty cool," like, and so it's beautiful, and even our players are advocates of it. And we went to a school last year, and our captain is like, hey, you don't have to play to necessarily be in professional sports. And then she pointed to me, she pointed to our social manager, she pointed to our athletic trainer. She then talked about our coaches, she talked about our hockey ops, she talked about our team services managers. It's like, look at all the opportunities you can do. So something with that, like if you love the sport and you're like, oh crap, but like I don't think I can make it professionally, you can. It just might look different. And that's something that it's like, like go do it. The opportunities are out there. And as our league grows, I was just telling kids at the career fair last week, it's like as our league grows, jobs are going to grow. And so keep on the lookout, like talk to people, connect with people. And it's great to be a part of something new, and to be part of growth is really special.
Yeah, absolutely. I couldn't agree more. And I think, like you said, the PWHL is just getting started.
Exactly.
And I think to pump your tires, it's in the spot that it is because there's so many people like you, Hannah, who genuinely care as much about the women's game as you do, and they do. It's it takes everybody pulling the same direction and promoting the game
Thank
and
you.
talking about the game the same way. And lots of good people in the PWHL helping make it what it is today and where it's going to go tomorrow. So thank you, first of all, for taking the time to chat here. I think everybody will appreciate your story, your advice, your insights along the way.
Thank you.
But tell people where they can find you if they have any questions to reach out with.
Yeah, absolutely. You can find me on Instagram at hbex12. And then on Twitter, I think it's the same thing. But yeah, you'll see me out there. I will do my best to answer any messages, but yeah, feel free to reach out.
Perfect. HBEX12, a classic hockey handle. Thank you so much for the time here.
Thank you guys. Really appreciate it.